To discuss all of the developments out of Washington, we're joined by not one, but two attorneys, Richard Roth and Natalie Alicia Gold. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, let's start off with the House Democrats issuing these subpoenas. Richard, the Supreme Court has ruled that lawmakers need to have a legislative reason before they expand these kind of powers, that they need to show that their inquiries are related to their official duties as lawmakers. Is this congressional overreach?
It is not congressional overreach. They clearly have a legislative reason. They had a person sit in front of them 2 months ago who said Donald Trump lied and cheated on his returns.
How is that a legislative reason?
If the president has engaged in or is engaging in criminal conduct, I believe that they will get the tax returns. Those tax returns are going to be produced because I think the Supreme Court will even see. The problem is that Trump is relying on a Republican Supreme Court, a conservative Supreme Court, which makes sense. But the Supreme Court judges take more seriously the fact that they're Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. They take very seriously the responsibilities, and they say, wait a minute, if we issue a mandate that shuts the Congress down, it will be the mandate for decades. So I believe there's a legislative reason. There's several of them, and I believe at the end of the day, he's going to have to produce those tax returns. And I think the tax returns, quite frankly, are probably very damning.
I'm not sure I'm hearing a legislative reason in anything that you've said there, but I'm going to let Natalie field it.
Rich, and I totally understand what you're saying, and people want this, people want to see it, but here's the thing, is that really reason enough, or a legislative reason? Michelle, as you said, I don't think so. And I think that they're going to be very hard pressed to actually get anything from his returns. I think Trump is going to make sure that that doesn't happen, and I think he has good reason.
What happens if they don't comply? If Mnuchin doesn't comply, what are the legal recourses they face?
There will be a litigation. It will go to a federal district court. It will quickly end up going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will make that decision. And these are very important. These are not Donald Trump issues. They are currently Donald Trump issues, but whatever decision is made will be the Supreme Court ruling for the next whatever years. So they're very serious issues. Does Congress have the ability to look at the tax returns of a president, not Donald Trump, of a president? And I think the answer is going to be yes. And I think even though, notwithstanding the fact that it's a conservative court, my guess is that they're going to actually say, Mr. Trump, you have to turn those tax returns over.
All right, still haven't heard a legislative reason, but let's see how the Supreme Court handles it. Let's move on to another topic.
Go ahead.
Democrats invited Imam Omar Soleiman to deliver the invocation on the House floor to recognize the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. That's the opening prayer. The Imam has a long history of expressing anti-Israel views, even promoting violence against Israel. He has called Israel a, quote, apartheid state and called for a Palestinian uprising. Richard, why is Pelosi making this move?
Michelle, listen, as much as I disagree on the last issue, I actually agree on this issue. I cannot understand, in light of the fact that the Democrats right now are being looked at by the, if you will, pro-Jews and the Jews, saying, what are you doing? What is Congress doing with those anti-Israeli comments? How do they not get someone who's clean, who doesn't have this history, to give the invocation before Congress? I agree with you. It was a stupid move.
Well,
very stupid.
Democrats are also calling it out as a bad call, to put it mildly. We heard from Congressman Lee Zeldin. He tweeted out, let's pull up that tweet, saying, Lee Zeldin's a Republican, totally unacceptable that Speaker Pelosi had Omar Soleiman give the opening prayer yesterday in the House. He compares Israel to the Nazis and calls them terrorists, supports Muslim Brotherhood, incites violence, calling for a Palestinian Intifada and the end of Zionism, etc. Bad call. Is that an understatement? Bad call?
It's shameful. It's disgraceful, Michelle. As an Israel supporter through and through, as someone who believes in the right of the Jewish state to exist, to have someone who has called Jews and the Jewish state Nazis and invite them onto Congress's floor is unacceptable.
Now, to be clear, there were other choices. There are plenty of imams that have not made anti-Semitic or anti-Israeli comments that would create this kind of controversy. Why not choose one of them?
They should have. And the problem I have with it is not only that they chose him, but it's the timing. Right now, there's a lot of Democrats that are saying, wait a minute, I don't know if I stand for my party anymore. My party had said, listen, I will submit to you that I think those Democratic congressmen are the far left, and they're not the norm. But even if they're on the fringes,
but when you have the leadership not calling this out,
yes,
correct.
I mean, in light of the fact, as you were saying, this comes after there's been a lot of dissatisfaction with the role that Pelosi and the Democratic leadership has taken in condemning the anti-Semitic remarks by Ilhan Omar and others.
No question.
So,
and the
strategically a bad move.
The problem is that right now everyone's looking to 2020. Call it what you want. The Democrats are looking at 2020. Trump's looking at 2020. And how do you do something like that knowing the Democrats are starting to flee the party? It was a stupid call.
All right. Well,
and I agree with Natalie. Disgraceful.
All right. Let's hear what you think about what Joe Biden has to say. He, of course, is the front runner of the presidential candidates coming out of the Democrats. And he made a comment that has generated a lot of controversy, saying that the U.S. must provide health care to everyone in the country, regardless of whether they are documented or undocumented. Let's take a listen.
I think that anyone who is in a situation where they're in need of health care, regardless of whether they're documented or undocumented, we have an obligation to see that they're cared for.
Should taxpayers be providing health care to illegal immigrants, Natalie?
So here, it's a tough ethical issue because, of course, if we had unlimited resources, we want to take care of all people. We never want to be in a position to say that someone should not get health care that they're needed. However, in the real world, we don't have unlimited resources. And we have lots of Americans who have huge health care bills and can't afford to pay and are doing very bad in the healthcare system. So I think that, absolutely, do we want people to be taken care of? Sure. However, we have to face the reality of today, which is that we have very limited resources. We're in a huge financial debt epidemic. And should we really be, so forthcoming to illegals? What I do think needs to happen is the law has to be changed, because a lot of these people, for example, are coming over here, getting educated, and then being sent back to their countries. Those are very smart people. So maybe the law has to change so that we can allow for some very bright individuals to stay here and be American.
Well, there is an issue of a general immigration reform, both tackling illegal immigration and legal immigration. But to this particular topic, Richard, illegal immigrants should be titled to Medicaid and Medicare, the same things that U.S. taxpayers are struggling to get enough for Americans?
Well, I think that Natalie hit it on the head. It is an ethical issue. And Joe Biden is saying there's no doubt we have the best health providers system in the world. Maybe not the best healthcare system, but we have the best doctors, the best hospitals. Everyone comes to the U.S. if they have a serious issue. And what Joe Biden was saying is that if someone has a bad health issue, it shouldn't matter whether they are black, white, Latino, legal immigrants, illegal immigrants. It shouldn't matter. They should be provided some kind of health care.
If you show up to an emergency room and you're illegal, you do get care. But providing and extending these kind of benefits to illegal immigrants, does this not just exacerbate the problem, the crisis that you have at the border when you have the likes of Joe Biden and New York's Mayor de Blasio saying, hey, all illegal immigrants, come here, we'll give you free health care?
Yeah, let's not put Joe Biden and de Blasio in the same.
They made the same comment on this one.
They did make the same comment, but de Blasio is left from left, in my opinion. Joe Biden, listen, I think it was a daring statement. I think that he's the kind of guy that pulls at the heartstrings of America. So a lot of people say, wait a minute, you know what? It's not stupid if someone is really in need of health care. However, as Natalie said, we do have an economical issue. We cannot just open the hospitals and the medical facilities to anyone and everyone. So it was controversial. We're going to be seeing a lot more controversial statements because Joe Biden is just sort of, Donald Trump.
He's supposed to be the centrist Democrat. He's supposed to be the answer to this far left that we're seeing from Democratic candidates. Maybe he's being pulled a little bit to the left. But to your points, it's hard to balance the economy and compassion. Good chat as always.
One
Richard
more thing.
Roth, I have to cut you off. We're going to go to break. Thank you so much, Richard Roth and Natalie Gold.